Yeah, we actually even went to the cultural call Root Festival.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
I see. Now tell me, how different is the music compared to when you were all the way in Abetifi? Tell me, how different?
Different.
Oh, very different.
It's nicer here in Accra.
She says it's nicer here in Accra. I see, but good to have you on the show. You've talked so many successes. I was reading about you, looking into the stuff that you've done, and I was blown away when you said all of these experiences and inspiration started with an 8-year-old girl, just a very little girl, all the way in Kwewu, Abetifi.
Yes.
So I take it that you're a Kwewu woman. Is that where dad is from?
That's where my dad is from.
And where's mom from?
She's from Sekendi.
Sekendi. Wow. So you were born and bred in Kwewu, Abetifi before you moved to the States?
I was born and bred at 37 Military Hospital.
37 Military Hospital?
Yes.
Tell us that story.
Well, you know, it's actually a funny story because my understanding is when I was born at the hospital, they switched. You know, back then in the 70s, the kids had illness when they were born. So they switched me with another baby.
No.
And yes. And my mother was like, they brought her to breastfeed me. She said, this is not my baby. And they insisted. So she took every strength she had and went into the other wards, and she said she found a lady just about to breastfeed me, and she snatched me. So the joke is, I tell her all the time, how did you know that I'm yours, right?
That's the question I
said,
was
maybe I'm not your kid.
I know.
But I have a birthmark.
Oh, she has the same birthmark too.
Yeah, I have a birthmark.
But hold on. Is mommy still alive?
Yes, she's in the United States.
Have you been able to talk about this story? Because, well, maybe because I don't have kids yet, but how do mothers know? How does she know?
Oh, you know, I'm a mother. You know, instinct.
You're kidding?
Yes.
So that's just how she knew this wasn't my child.
Yes.
You're a miracle. You could have ended up in another home. I see. So then from then, you still lived in the barracks, I'm sure?
Yes.
Okay.
We lived in
the
barracks all our lives. The last place was at Takrady at the 2nd Battalion. My dad was the commanding officer there. And we enjoyed going to the military schools, you know, kind of lived a privileged life,
of course.
Right? We were shielded from a lot of things. So, for example, you know, we had maids, guards, we had cooks, all of that. And it's kind of like a baby in a mother's womb, right? You are protected. And then when the coup happened, you see the real Ghana.
Yeah. So that's what you mean by you were shielded from many things.
Yeah.
You didn't see the reality of life then.
Yes.
But when the coup came in, was when you were like, oh, so this is reality.
That is correct.
I'm sure many people are wondering. She's talked about a military man. She's talked about coups and all. Her dad used to be a very popular military man. Tell us about Daddy. What's his name again?
His name is Lieutenant Colonel S.K. Ofusuapia, retired.
I see. Yes. But he's still alive.
Yes, he is, thank God.
What do you remember about Daddy when you were growing up? So it was 37, it was Takrady, it was Kwewu, Abetifi. Where else?
That's it.
Okay. What do you remember? How was growing up like?
Growing up was fun. Bemakam was one of the places we grew up, so I actually visited there when I came.
Right.
And Daddy will take us every weekend. He would take us to the beach.
Okay.
And he'll pick up all our friends and some of my cousins, and we'll spend the weekend Saturdays at the beach. And after that, we'll go to Cantonment. He'll get us some, you know, food and stuff like that, and then take us home. But he was a strict military man.
Of course.
And you know, it got to a point where I remember telling him, I'm not one of your soldiers. I'm your daughter.
Because he was too strict, right?
Yes.
How many are you?
There is a total of 5 of us.
How many girls?
Just 2. I'm the oldest, then I have a younger sister. And I have an older brother and 2 younger brothers.
I see, so 5 in all. Yeah. But in all of this, where was Mommy?
Mommy was in the United States.
She wasn't even in Ghana here?
No.
So Dad raised you all by himself?
Yeah, with the help of family and others.
And of course, you mentioned that you had cooks, you had butlers and all that. So it was easy for him to move around the service.
Yes.
And then
my grandmother would sometimes be there. So we always had someone family member.
So was mommy the reason you finally migrated to the United States? Because I knew there was a London in some part.
Yes.
Okay.
Mommy was the reason we went to United States.
Okay.
We were in London after the coup.
Okay.
We went to London, and then because mommy was in the United States, we went to, of course, we wanted to live with our mother.
All right. So the 31st coup happened, and I'm sure that was when migration took place. Dad had to move you from Kwewa Betifi to London.
Yes.
At the time, did you understand what was going on? What did he say? How did he say it? Were you happy? Were you confused?
I was confused
I
because I was only 11 years old. My brother was 12 and my sister was only 5, so she had no understanding. I remember first from the barracks, just to get to Abetifi, you know, it's a gate. So we had to go through the gate, and we were wanted kids due to my dad.
Yeah.
So they had to smuggle us on the bottom of a trotro, and people had their feet on us to get out of the gate.
You're kidding me?
Yes, and once we were outside the barracks, our cook was who got us out, and then he took us to Abetifi to my grandparents.
I'm sure you had questions.
Yes, yes, we had questions, and we were told as soon as we got to Abetifi, my grandparents said, if anyone asked, where's your dad, we were to say he was dead.
Wow.
And so after that, my uncle came down to Abetifi to visit with us and said he was bringing us to Accra. So we were happy, right? So we get to Accra, and we're in this room. This man comes up, and he's like, hi, Eunice, Wafa, and Ya. And we're like, who's this person?
Yeah.
And he said, this is Daddy. Now, mind you, we've known our dad as a military man, clean shave, everything. This man was full beard. I don't even know.
You couldn't even recognize
no,
him.
Not at all.
But how about the voice, though? Not even the voice.
No.
He had been through too much.
Yes.
That everything about
Was
him had
different.
changed.
Different.
After how long?
He was in hiding for about, I think, I don't know, several months before he was able to leave the lands of Ghana. But I remember him sitting with us and saying, I have to make a trip, and I might not see you guys again. And that...
I know.
Yeah, and he told my brother, you take care of your sisters. I am leaving them into your hands. Just imagine a 12-year-old being responsible, given that huge task. It was hard. And then we said our goodbyes, and that was it. They took us back to Abetifi. And Abetifi was a shock, a cultural shock, because my grandparents didn't have real bathrooms. They didn't have a regular toilet or a shower, things we're used to. And so I was like, I am not using that. And for days I wouldn't go to the bathroom because I was like, no.
I mean, you had lived in Accra.
All our
You
life.
had lived in Burma camp. There were proper bathrooms.
Yes.
I mean, services available to you.
That's correct.
Then all of a sudden, through some coup,
Yes.
you are in the village.
Yes.
No proper bathroom and all. Questions on your mind, a confused 11-year-old child.
Yes, yes, and very traumatized, very traumatized. But the people of Abetifi were good to us.
They were amazing, right?
They were good to us. During a time, I always say, that was the most difficult time in my life. They gave me life.
Right.
They gave me strength, and they gave me what I
Thank
what
God
I
for
needed
your
to
lives,
hold
for
on
your
to.
siblings.
Yes.
I mean, for mom and dad. For him to even be alive today is a miracle. And he has a book out there. What's the title of the book again?
Allegiance versus Indiscipline,
Right.
a Ghanaian soldier's story.
Right, and it's available everywhere.
Yes.
I need to find that book to
Yes.
read. I'm sure a lot of his experiences would be in that book.
Yes.
Anyway, so enough about Daddy, enough about the crying and all. I'm sorry I got you emotional.
That's okay.
But so tell us, how did London come in? Who took you to London?
Daddy, so when he left Ghana,
After telling you he may not come back.
yes,
Okay.
that's where he sought asylum there,
Right.
and then he came for us. So we went to London, stayed in London briefly.
Okay, you know why I'm smiling? Okay, so I bet if no, I'm not going to use the bathroom. I'm not going to bath. All the way to London with the poshness and the bougie life. Were you surprised?
Yeah.
Did you say, how are you fine?
Exactly.
Really?
I was young, so I had no understanding.
Right.
I was just happy to be in a familiar environment, right?
I see. So school started in London.
Yes.
You remember the name of the school at the time?
New Addington.
That's where you went to school? With your siblings?
With my siblings.
Okay.
Yes.
So what was the progression from there?
We excelled in school because even in Ghana, my dad always had a tutor to help us.
But how about the language? I mean, that was the Queen's English.
That's correct.
Did it shock you? What happened? How did you adjust?
It did. We had a Ghanaian accent. We were still considered
very thick Ghanaian accent.
And we were still considered Africans,
right?
So a lot of people identified us as not a regular person, there's the African in school, you know? And so it was different because I had never experienced anything like that. And I experienced, the first time I experienced racism was with my best friend. She was Caucasian. And I would go play with her all the time. Okay. And one day after playing, the father didn't realize I was behind her. And so when we entered the house, he said, I told you to stop playing with those Africans.
Oh my God.
And I was like, whoa. So I remember going home and asking my dad, hey, what's that about, you know?
Did he explain to you at the time?
Yeah.
Did that make you better?
Well,
hearing those things?
No, it made me, I guess I realized that I am different,
right.
you know? Before then, I never even thought about that. But I realized that, oh yeah, I am different.
So tell me, how did that shape your mindset? How did that shape the woman that you have become today, even to a point where you have your own foundation, the Ofusuapia Foundation? Tell me what that did to you and how the foundation was birthed. I'm a very resilient person. I see that.
And I think I got that from my dad being in the military and watching how strong he was and his tenacity. And so by seeing that, my first thing was, oh, okay, well, you know, I'm still me, and I'm still going to be me, and I'm not going to let that stop me. And the way the Lieutenant Colonel SK Ofusuapia Empowerment Center was birthed was that I've always wanted to give back to the community of Abitifi.
Right.
And it's been 30, 40 years later, my dream is coming to fruition. And I decided to honor my dad because he's from that town and name it after him. And so that was the birthing of the center.
Ofusuapia Center.
Yes.
How long ago did you establish the center?
I officially established it 2 years ago.
Okay.
But prior to that, I had been sending stuff and helping the community before then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in reading about the foundation, I realized that you had 3 aims and aspirations for the foundation. 1 is to create change, and then 2 is to empower people, and then 3 is to help the elderly in society. Explain that to us and what informed these 3 aspirations for the foundation.
Okay. So the elderly part is, I notice in Abitifi, the majority of the folks are elderly. So with the kids that we empower, one of the things is that they have to select an elderly person that they're not related to.
Okay.
And every month they go and help that person, whether it be just conversation or whether it be minor tasks. But you do that. That's how the kids of the center are given back to the community. In reference to change, change in a sense that growing up as a Ghanaian, as a girl, we are timid. We speak very soft. And what I'm teaching the girls at the center is to be assertive. Speak up, and speak with confidence. Know your worth. The guys, we're teaching them to respect women. We're teaching them all these things so that they can become better leaders of not just the community of Abitifi, but Ghana as a whole. I see the kids as our future leaders. And if we don't instill these things in them, integrity, honesty, kindness, creativity, be open, and fear God, right? Those are the things that are going to take them further in life. Building relationships, making sure that you're building relationships that are solid, that will nurture you and also mentor you.
Fantastic. I'm proud of what you're doing.
Thank you.
So is it a house that houses all these kids? How many of them do you have at the moment?
At the moment, I do have a facility on my dad's property that are housing the kids. I have a total of 20.
Okay.
They come in from Form 2, and then we prepare them for the BCEC. For secondary school.
Secondary school.
And then we have Form 3s. Then we also have the ones that have already left the center and are at secondary school. We still mentor them. We still provide all the educational needs for them. And I also have a student at the Ekropon Teaching Training College.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
But when did this idea come to you? When you were in London or when you migrated to the US? I even want to know why and how you ended up in the US, because you were in London. I'm sure life was beautiful.
Yes.
So how did you end up in Washington, D.C.?
We ended up in D.C. because my mother lived in D.C. My dad and mom were divorced. All right.
Okay.
So dad took us to London. And then mom was like, hey, my kids are close by.
Right.
I need
so I can just get them.
I got to get them.
Oh.
So she got us and we went to the U.S.
How old were you?
13.
Oh, okay. So you got to London when you were like 11?
12.
So just a year in London?
Yeah, just a year.
You are lucky from London to the United States in just a year. So all of your siblings or just you?
No, all my siblings, my brother, my mom's kids.
Okay.
So there's 3 of us, my older brother, myself, and my younger sister.
Oh, so those were the 3 that moved to the United States.
That's correct.
Okay. So when did it actually come to you that, okay, I need to give back to Kwewu Abitifi. I need to actually establish this foundation. At what point in time did the idea come to you?
That idea came to me in my 20s.
Okay.
And then it solidified when I came for my grandmother's funeral in Abitifi. When I came, I saw a little girl that was carrying firewood. And I asked my dad, isn't she supposed to be in school? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, what is she doing carrying the firewood? He said, well, she's got to go to the farm and help support her family. And I said, well, that's not fair. She needs an education, and every kid needs an education, and she's been deprived. I said, something needs to be done about that. And my dad laughed. He's like, Eunice, you're always trying to solve
problems.
He calls me his what-if child because I'm always what if. I'm an analyst by nature. And so I said, no, we've got to do something. And so that's when I started just sending my old clothing and stuff like that. And over time, I said, you know what? I want to build something so that I can have a center where the kids can come and empower them, help them grow and become future leaders.
Nice. But let me take you just back in time in school. So in London, that was just a year. And then now Washington, D.C. What did you study in school? And what did you want to become professionally?
So I studied general studies, but I did business. So I have an MBA in business.
Are you surprised? And the Kwewus and business, I am totally not surprised.
You know what? And you know how I came about with business? When I lived in Kwewu, my grandmother sold bread. And I was fascinated. She would keep it in the veranda. Nobody was there. People would come, leave their money, and go.
Nobody would steal it.
Yeah, and I had no understanding. I said, hey, what's happening?
They were so faithful.
They were very faithful. And so I loved her bread. And I used to eat it. And she would complain. When what I used to do is, you know, the bread, I would eat the inside. It was terrible.
And leave the outside.
And so
you were terrible when you were growing up.
And she would get upset and say, hey, stop eating my bread. You need to buy it. I said, buy it? I said, oh, okay. So, you know, we we had toys.
Right.
We had a lot of things that we took to Abitifi. So I cut a little box in my bedroom window, and I would put my little TV and wind it, and it'll play London Bridge is falling down,
falling down,
and
falling down.
all the kids will come and they'll be watching it. Then I'll turn it off, and they're like, "We want to see more."
Exactly.
I said, "Go get money." And
So that's
so
what
then
the
they will
business
pay.
strategy came
That's
from.
right. They will.
So you turn it up, go bring money, you pay, and
I
then you
use
watch.
the money to buy bread for my grandmother.
You are joking. You were too smart for your own good at the time.
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
Yes.
So that's how you started
That's
raising
how
money
I started.
to buy grandma's bread.
And I've always been a business-minded person.
You are, oh no, are you serious right now?
Yes.
I see. So, so what particular business are you into at the moment?
Right now, I'm in the IT field.
Yes,
So
I read about that too. So how did you move from business to IT?
I still have a business.
Okay.
So I have a fashion business called
Right.
Fashions by Eunice.
Okay.
I design and make custom handmade jewelry.
Right.
With
this
I
is
bought
not
here
yours.
in Ghana.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And so I have that business, but then I also have a catering business on the
Okay.
side back in the
I'm not
States.
surprised. Grandma was baking bread. You have a catering. I mean, I'm not surprised at all. The apple doesn't fall too far from
That
the
is
tree.
true.
I see.
That is true. And then I went into the IT field after
Right.
school, and that's where I've been for the last 30 or so years.
You are joking.
Yes.
30.
And I love the IT industry.
I see.
Yes.
I mean, it's the #1 industry in the world right now.
Yes.
I mean, we're talking AIs, artificial intelligence,
Yes.
and all that. Tell me, how different do you think the world is going to be 5 years from now?
Oh my God.
5, 10 years from now?
I
How
think
different
with
is
the
the world gonna be?
artificial intelligence stuff that's coming out, I'm actually afraid a little bit, right? Because I feel like people, just like now, if you give me my cell phone, I can't remember people's number. I have to look in my
'Cause you
phone
just
because
have
you're
to
so
go-
used
Yeah.
to, you know, and we're not really using our God-given brain capabilities, right?
Yeah.
So I like it in a sense, but in another sense, I think it's going to deprive us of our natural talents.
I see. Doc, so if you were president for 24 hours here in Ghana, what 3 things would you change or improve?
The first will be the roads.
I am not surprised. Your Excellency, I know you're listening. The roads are bad.
The roads are terrible.
Terrible.
I want to know where our tax money is going to.
Okay, that's for them to answer, not
Yes.
me. And then number 2 would be?
Number 2 would be the school system. I'm big on education, so definitely the school system, making sure we have the right people in place to teach these people, these students, and setting a good examples. We have to set the example for these kids. They are the next generation.
Right.
And if we don't set a good example, then we're doing them a disservice.
Right. And 3?
The third would be the
The who?
Parliament.
Okay. What about Parliament?
I think that a lot of the Constitution needs to be revisited
Exactly.
and revised.
There's been a lot. There's been a lot of calls for it in recent times. I remember Honorable Abu Sakara. He's been one person who's been advocating for the Constitution to either be revised or changed totally.
That is
If you have the power, what would you change in our 1992 Constitution? Many people say the president has too much power in appointing judges and ministers and all that. What would you change?
I think what I would change is the corruption.
Okay.
People feel it's okay, and it's not okay.
Right.
The bribery, that would be something that I would definitely change in this country.
All right. Anyway, that's cool, because I was actually asking about the Constitution, but I see, but I see where this is going. Of course, we all agree that corruption must change, bribery must change and all that, but I love the fact that you mentioned education, which is your second primary thing that you will change. But your foundation is also doing something connected to education, right? Exactly what do you do, especially for the people in Abitifi?
So our main goal is to empower those kids.
Okay.
We provide tutoring, we provide mentorship, we provide field trips.
Right.
And our field trips,
field trips.
Yes.
Okay.
Our field trips are specific so that they can learn. We want to open their eyes, right, so that they can see the possibilities.
Okay.
We also do we do a donation in the United States that raise money every year in September,
and you bring it
and
down
we bring
here.
it down.
Okay.
I do a donation distribution in Appiah once a year at the grounds where the entire community comes and they get clothing, shoes, and it's amazing to see people get a pair of shoes and appreciate it, you know. And so it's the little things. And if all of us were to give back, this country will be a wonderful
better place. It will be a better place.
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. It's a whole download, but we are like 50% or maybe 45%. It's unfortunate, but it's okay. We'll end it here today. I'm sure we'll cross paths again. You will be back on the show to tell us a lot more about your life and how resilient you have become. Now, when one takes a look at you, I see strength, I see resilience, I see upliftment, I see a whole lot. There must be things that you do or things that you say to yourself as a woman to keep you going. And that's what I want you to share with our women who are watching us today. So I'll take you to our activity center. So you tell us what those 5 things are. Of course, that is what we do here on Today's Woman. I've been speaking to Dr. Eunice Colon. She had a very rich background here in Ghana. If you missed it, I am sorry, but of course, you can get to watch it later on all our platforms, Facebook, everywhere. But that's what we do here on Today's Woman. Let's just go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll get to Dr. Eunice Colon's motivational speaking session, if I can put it that way. Don't go anywhere.